command struck, a heavy weight. Go to Nineveh, that massive city, and cry out against its wickedness. The name alone made my blood run cold. Nineveh was the capital of Assyria, a place built on brutality and the systematic destruction of my people. To walk through those gates was to walk into a slaughterhouse. My heart hammered against my ribs as I stood in the silence of my home. God demanded I offer them a chance at salvation, but I wanted their ruin. I wanted them erased from the map. The air in the room grew thin. I looked toward the horizon, toward the path that led to the city, and felt a surge of pure, unadulterated rebellion. I would not be the messenger of their mercy. I turned away from the eastern road, my decision hardening into a sharp, singular focus. Staff gripped, defiance breathed. I strode away. I reached the port of Joppa as the sun began to dip. The air here was thick with the smell of salt, rotting fish, and the frantic shouting of merchants. Eyes scanned mass for westbound ship. Weathered captain, fare paid. He beckoned aboard. I stepped onto the deck, the wood groaning beneath me. As the crew hauled the ropes and the sails caught the wind, I watched the coastline of my home shrink into a thin gray line. The distance felt like a victory. I turned my back on the east and descended into the belly of the ship. The light vanished, replaced by the damp, rhythmic thrum of the hull against the waves. I crawled into a corner, pulled my knees to my chest, and let the darkness swallow me. I was moving away. I was safe. I had finally escaped. The transition was not gradual. One moment, the ship rocked with the steady, predictable rhythm of the open sea. The next, the world tilted violently, throwing me against the damp timbers of the hold. A roar, deeper and louder than any thunder I had ever heard, vibrated through the hull. I scrambled toward the hatch, my hands slipping on the wet wood. The air that hit me was not wind. It was a thick doubt, breath caught, sky gone, black clouds swirl. Mast groans, gale howls, sailors haul. Captain fought waves, knuckles white. The ship shuddered, listing dangerous. The men were screaming, but the storm swallowed their voices. This was not a natural gale. The captain lunged through the hatch, his grip iron hard on my arm. He dragged me up the slick stairs and onto the heaving deck. Sailors huddled, pale faces, eyes darting. The captain shoved me forward, placed a jagged rasp against the howling gale. What have you done to bring this upon us? The ship lurched, throwing us all against the railing. I looked at the sea, then at the men who were dying for my sin. My voice felt thin, brittle against the roar of the water. I am a Hebrew, I shouted, the wind tearing the words from my lips. God's might. Sea, land bowed. He fled. The captain stared at me, his jaw tight. What should we do to calm the sea? I looked at the black churning water. There was no other way. I stepped toward the edge of the deck. Pick me up and throw me into the sea. It will become calm. They hesitated, rowing hard against the swell. I felt the air leave my lungs as they heaved me over the railing. The impact with the water was like hitting solid stone. I plunged deep, the cold pressure squeezing my chest, the roar of the surface fading into a muffled, rhythmic thrum. Then, the turbulence stopped. I opened my eyes in the murky green, watching the surface ripple above me, now perfectly still. The storm was gone. I sank further, the light dimming to a bruised twilight as I drifted toward the abyss. My limbs grew heavy, and the salt stung my eyes. I reached out, clawing at the empty water, when a shadow eclipsed the remaining light. It was not a rock or a reef. A colossal, wet mouth enveloped me, dragging me into a throat of slick, suffocating slime. My hands against shifting floor. Time lost its meaning in the absolute crushing dark. I counted the slow, rhythmic thuds of the giant heart nearby, a steady drumbeat that measured my descent into madness. Hunger's grip, pressure's weight. I yielded, and and spoke. My voice cracked, truth confessed, flight futile. My surrensive body thrashing with a final convulsive heave. The creature opened its jaws. I was launched into the blinding light, tumbling through the air before slamming into the wet, hard-packed sand. I lay there, gasping, covered in the vile residue of the deep. The command returned, sharp and absolute. I did not hesitate. I walked for days, my feet calloused, my mind fixed on the destination. Nineveh rose from the horizon like a mountain of stone and malice. It took 3 full days just to traverse its breadth. I reached the city center, the air thick with the noise of trade and the stench of arrogance. I stood in the plaza and shouted the words that had been burned into my mind. Yet 40 days, I waited for the blades. Instead, the shouting stopped. A man dropped his load of grain. A woman paused at the well. The silence spread like a contagion through the streets. Then, the transformation began. The king stepped down from his throne, discarded his authority, and sat in the dust. From the highest official to the lowest laborer, the people tore their status to shreds. They declared a fast, refusing food and water. Even the beasts were tethered in the streets, draped in rough, unyielding fabric. The entire city knelt in the dirt, a sea of bowed heads. The sky remained clear. No fire fell. No walls crumbled. The city stood, vibrant and alive. As the 40 days passed into nothingness, I watched the streets from a distance, waiting for the ruin I had promised. It never came. The realization hit me like a physical blow to the chest. God had relented. He had looked at these people, my enemies, and chosen mercy over the justice I craved. My blood turned to ice, then boiled. I stood in the center of the plaza, surrounded by the very people I wanted erased, and felt my pulse hammer against my temples. I turned my back on the city and marched toward the gates, my jaw locked tight. I climbed the rocky slopes outside the walls, putting distance between myself and the mercy I despised. I found a patch of barren earth and sat down, staring at the sprawling, spared metropolis below. The injustice of it burned in my throat. I raised my voice to the heavens, letting the bitterness pour out. Lord, this is exactly why I ran. I knew you were gracious, slow to anger, and full of love. I would rather die here in the dirt than watch you forgive me. I built a lean-to of sticks and dry brush, a pathetic monument to my own struggle. I sat aloof, watching the city below, waiting for the sun to finish what my heart started. Then, something shifted. A vine sprouted from the parched earth. It grew with impossible speed, curling over my shelter. Its broad leaves blotted the glare of the desert sun. For a few hours, I felt a strange, cool breeze. I leaned back, closing my eyes, almost grateful. But the respite was a trap. Before dawn, a worm chewed through the root. The vine shriveled, the leaves turned brittle and gray, and my shade vanished. Then the east wind arrived. It was a furnace, a dry, scouring gale that stripped the moisture from my skin and made the air hard to breathe. I collapsed into the dirt, my head throbbing, my throat raw. I cursed the heat. I cursed the wind. I cursed the very life that clung to me. Then, the voice came again, not in thunder, but in a quiet, piercing question. You are concerned about a plant you did not grow. Should I not have compassion for Nineveh?